All right. Welcome. My name is Jose Anunciato, and I think we're here for CS 5610. Maybe got some undergrads from 4550 as well, maybe? Yes, maybe. Yes, true. So basically, it's web development. Jose Anunciato, my name is there, right there. So we're going to be meeting here on Tuesdays, 6 to 9, I believe, right? For the next 15 or 16 weeks. Hard to call. It's space for everybody. I think it's 86, 87 students. Let's see, this is my YouTube channel, which you should all join and follow. And all these presentations will be recorded and then shared in a playlist, which I'll make available either on Piazza or make available also as part of here on Blackboard. That's my email as well. Although I would prefer that you contact me using Piazza and ask public questions so that the folks can see the same question and get the same answer across for everyone. This is or if you prefer Hangout, if my office hours don't quite work because you can't make it, you can text me. That's my personal number. Please don't share it. So you can text me, and then we can jump on a Hangout, and I can help you out. You can share screen, and you can show me where you're stuck, and we can go from there. Office hours would be right before this class at Nightingale, and I believe tomorrow also at the same time. And I believe I'm going to add another one on Friday. The TAs will be posting their own office hours, although some of them are going to be sharing it here as well. Yeah, they'll be sharing their office hours here. And it'll probably post it as well on Piazza. We'll update on Piazza. You can see the teaching staff there. And my GitHub username is janunzi. One of the things I will ask you to do is to invite all of us as collaborators to your GitHub repositories. We're going to be making heavy use of GitHub to submit assignments to help you out. So if you invite us, we can readily view your code, clone down your repository, compile it locally, see if something's wrong, maybe fix it, and provide it as a solution for you right away. So if you could invite us, that'd be great. There's the GitHub usernames for all of us in github.com. If you use the school's GitHub, I'm not sure if you can invite folks for collaboration. I don't know if it supports that. So if it doesn't, I would rather use just plain old github.com. Yeah, I don't know if it allows multiple students to share and be collaborative. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure how they have it set up. So the goals of the course is to go through several the latest web technologies to implement web applications. So we're not going to be building web sites per se. We're going to be building web applications. So applications that happen to be running on the web. So applications that you could just as well would have built them maybe in a desktop or in a mobile, but we happen to be using web-related technologies. Right? So using HTTP as a communication medium, we'd be using servers to run, to interact with resources, just databases and full access to network resources. And we're using HTML and JavaScript to render user interfaces. So you know, we'll touch upon many software engineering aspects that you would find common in other settings if this were not a web course. So again, it's a lot of the same challenges that you would find in implementing applications in other frameworks, but we just happen to be using the web as a framework. So the lectures are mostly practical, and I tend to have first a theoretical coverage of a particular topic, and then right away jumping into some demo or hands-on example on applying those principles. A lot of the principles will be discussed as I provide a particular demo. So, for instance, we might create a file, and the naming convention that we choose for that file will give us a chance to talk about why do you name it like that, right? And will give us a chance to talk about best practices on how to name files, right? Or we'll create certain file structures, right? And that'll give us a chance to talk about, well, why did you organize it that way? Or several other alternatives of how to organize. And a lot of these best practices are going to be driven by the fact that you're typically not going to be building a web application all by yourself, but typically be part of a larger team, and we need to introduce structure, right? We need to introduce certain architectures and best practices so that the code belongs to the team as opposed to just you. Right? If it was you, you could structure your code any which way, name things any which way you want. But that's not the reality of any serious web development. And so, similar aspects you would find if you were developing any software, right? So yeah, so I make use of a lot of hands-on coding and talking why would we choose this versus another alternative. So yeah. The assignments, there are two big portions of this course. One of them is the assignment, and the other one is the project. And they go hand in hand in that in both cases we build a product, right? We build something, right? From scratch all the way through. On the assignments, we build something that is a product that I propose, right? And we're going to build the same thing from scratch. And each new technology that we introduce will give us a chance to talk about that particular layer in a multi-layer application. And also best practices at each different one of those layers, and what are the concerns at each one of those layers. And the intent is that you in tandem, in parallel, you follow along building your own project, okay? Where skills that you learn throughout the assignments of building something that I tell you, you would then turn around and apply the same skills to further your particular project. Okay? In the assignments, it's a project that I ask you to build. It's going to be somewhat of like a content management system. But whereas the team project is something you choose, and you're free to choose whatever you want. Right? It has to be within certain boundaries, certain common requirements for everybody, just to maintain the level of complexity across. So it's the same level of complexity across all the teams. So everybody's expected to do some kind of user management. Everybody's expected to identify some domain objects. And provide some CRUD, create, read, update, delete use cases for those domain objects. So there's a you have to implement some form of one-to-many relationship, many-to-many relationships. So there's a common level of complexity for all teams, and just like as you just like you would for the project, add features as you go, applying different technologies to accomplish certain aspects. The same thing would be doing in the assignment. The assignment, same thing. We're going to be adding new technologies, talking about those concerns at that particular layer, and it's going to all build on top of each other. It's going to be each assignment builds on the previous one. Okay? Oftentimes, like in any software engineering endeavor, you need to refactor, right? Because you don't know the entire requirements of the project, and as you learn new requirements, you might need to go back and perhaps say, oh, well, I chose this implementation, I should have maybe chosen this other. And that's a very common aspect of software engineering in general, right? That you design and you find yourself refactoring, as you go. Let's see. Yeah, so the assignments and the team project. Now, a team project is meant to be worked on from the beginning, right? Right away, you should be thinking on what is that I would like to build, forming teams, and perhaps a distributed skill set that some folks might be better at the back end, some folks might be better at front end, and whatnot. But you're all expected to work on the entire stack, right? Everybody should know all layers should be you should have the skill on all of them. So full stack, all of them. So it's not meant to oh well, let me wait till the last couple of weeks in the semester to start working on the project. You should be working on the project right away. Right, so start thinking on what is it you'd like to work on. One of the aspects is that one of the requirements is that you need to identify some third-party API that you need to interact with. Right? So either Best Buy or Yelp or Amazon or whatever. Identify a third-party API that you need to interact with, and start beginning on becoming familiar with those APIs. What data can you retrieve? What's the format? So start looking at that right away. Right? It oftentimes happens that the API doesn't fulfill the minimum requirements of the course, and you need to switch to a different API. Right? So I would start looking at that right away. Oftentimes, you need to apply for a key, right? A private key, a public key to use those APIs, and that might take a while. It might be immediate, or it might take a couple of days. So you don't want this to wait till the later, and then learn that API is no good for you. Okay. So start thinking about what is that you might want to work on. Evaluation is split up into assignments and projects are worth the same, 35%. And there's going to be about 10 assignments, almost one per week. The first one's going to go out today. There's going to be about 6 quizzes, maybe more. The intention is for you to be in class. Usually I have them at the end of the lecture, or maybe in the middle. I don't know. Most of the times I have a break in between, so I might have them at the end of one. The projects. We're going to break it up into a couple of phases. The first one is your proposal. Again, you're free to choose whatever domain you want. So you don't have to ask me, is this a good idea? It's whatever you like, except that you need to keep it within certain complexity, right? Then shortly after that, there's a design phase where you provide a sequence diagrams, class diagrams, use cases that you're going to be implementing, some wireframes, so maybe some small prototyping of some aspects that you're not quite sure that you would like to maybe prototype early on, so that you're more comfortable and more confident that you're going to be able to deliver this. And yeah, so specifically, in particular, prototyping the interaction with this third-party API. Right? In particular, you need to be able to fulfill 2 use cases from this API. One of them is being able to retrieve a list of things, that meet a particular criteria. Maybe movies, and you get a list of movies, or recipes, or favorite teams, or scores of a particular sport. Whatever domain is that you choose, you need to be able to provide a query and receive some kind of array of objects that you can then render in some user interface. So that's one of them. The second one is usually the first query will come back with some summary results, right? Some summarized short results that can then be used in a subsequent query for more details, right? That allows you to implement something like a master-slave user interface, right? Where you can go from a list to a details, right? So those are at least those two types of use cases the API should support. Okay? And then the application basically will be an application you're going to build around those use cases, right? So that's going to be the minimum set of use cases, and around them you'll be able to say, well, I like this recipe. I'm going to save it, or I'm going to review it, or I'm going to share with someone else, or all sorts of other user-to-user interaction and social interaction. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little farther, but just a point that you should be working on projects right away from the beginning. There'll be a midterm and a final, 10% each. Just like the quizzes, these will be self-graded on Blackboard. So they'll be mostly fill in the blanks and multiple choices and true false. So you would get the grade immediately after taking the exam, the quizzes. What else? All right. These are the final grades. I think this is for undergrad. For grads, I don't think there's D's. I forget. I don't think there's D's in for grads. Makeup policy. So typically the assignment will go out a Tuesday and it'll be due the following Tuesday at midnight. Except maybe the first one. The first one, this first one will be lenient since it's a fairly big assignment, and you're going to be setting up an environment. And so if you're not quite done next Tuesday, we're not going to penalize you much. So if you're done by Wednesday or Thursday, that's fine. But the assignment 2 is going to come out next Tuesday as well. So if you want to get going, right? But typically the makeup policy or the late policy is that you'll be deducted 1% for every hour that you're late. Okay? And we're going to go by the submission on Blackboard. Whenever you submit your assignment on Blackboard. Okay? This is as opposed to I always get into this discussion you might have finished your assignment on GitHub, right? You would have pushed everything on GitHub and you committed at 10 p.m. but you never submitted it on Blackboard until next day. And I always get into this argument and say, well, but I finished my work the day before. You should go by the GitHub. This creates an administration nightmare. Okay, I'm looking at this date or that other date. So to simplify, we're just going to go by the date that you submitted on Blackboard. Right. So on Blackboard, typically you'll be asked to copy the URL of a GitHub commit or some URL of something you deployed online. Copy that URL and paste it in Blackboard and submit that. So we'll go by the date you submitted on Blackboard. Make sense? Okay. So any hour after the due date, it'll be an hour. It'll be 1 point per hour that you're late. So if there are extreme circumstances, right? If you're traveling or there's or something personal, let me know. We'll certainly work with you, but that will be one-on-one, case by case. Okay. Yes.
Since you mentioned that the submission would be on the Tuesday itself, so is there a possibility that it can be made the Wednesday, because Tuesday will be the class from 6 to 9? So
sure.
Yeah, that would be great.
That's reasonable. Okay, we'll do that. Yeah. So the assignment going out today will be due next Wednesday at midnight. What else? If you can't come to class and you miss a quiz or anything, just let me know. We can also try to work around that. Perhaps you can take the quiz or the exam with a TA or something like that. But you have to let me know that beforehand. Okay, so not afterwards, beforehand. All right, so the assignments are cumulative, as I mentioned earlier. One thing that to point out is that obviously the assignments are meant to be worked on individually, right? As opposed to in the project, you're meant to be working in teams of 3, right? But the assignments are meant to be worked individually, it's fine for you to look at solutions elsewhere on Stack Overflow and search for solutions and whatnot. That's fine. Right? But any code that you copy, more than 3 lines of code, I ask you to always provide a reference. Right? So don't waste the TA's time grading something that someone else did, right? That you're trying to claim merit for that. Okay? So do not just try to deceive the TAs. They're very good at finding things that look similar, or they've been with me for maybe a couple of semesters. So especially if you have done something previously in a previous semester or in a different course, don't reuse anything. Right? You can look at it, because you can remind yourself what you did. But if you copy anything, always make a reference to it, right? Or ask, can I reuse this? Right? Maybe you can build on something you've worked on a previous semester. That's okay. Right? We'll work with you to have an equivalent set of complexity, right, that compensates for the fact that you're starting not from scratch, but from a different position. That's reasonable. So again, when in doubt, ask. Again, I've had for the last couple of semesters, I've always had 1 or 2 that have copied, or there's a misunderstanding that they didn't know. We're all adults. We all understand what plagiarism is. We all understand that what there's hours or not. Do not try and deceive. That's the most important part. Right? Do not try and deceive. Schedule. Okay, so all right, we'll go over the schedule in a minute. Academic integrity, cheating, fabrication. You can go at the academic integrity policy to take a look and make sure you understand that. Class environments. We're all adults here, right? Make sure we all treat each other with respect. Ideally, you won't be surfing and looking at other things. It's distracting to folks around you. Especially, do not type or make small conversation. It's much more interesting. Your conversation might be more than mine. Please, it's disrespectful for other folks. So let's not do that. All right. Let's see. What else? Title 9. Students. All right.